Srimate Bhakti Vaibhav Swami. Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Chari Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatharini Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityanand Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Ram Ramo Hare Hare Jayo Radha Govinda Shri Radhe Jayo Gauranitai Jayo Gauranitai Jayo Prabhupada Jai Gurudev Harinam Sankirtan ki jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai Guru Maharaj ji ki jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudhiraye nashtapraeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatir uttama bhaktir bhavati naistiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Om Agyanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamhayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagar Jatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Shri Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vamcha कृपा सिंधुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिन इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna, Prabhuji's Mataji's welcome you all to today's discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam as part of the Bhakti Vaibhav session. So last time we discussed how Lord Brahma is beginning to answer this question by Narada Muni. Yacha, what is the material cosmic manifestation? What is it composed of? What are the underlying uh, ingredients? And we discussed a bit of technical details. I hope devotees have been able to grasp or at least try to grasp that how specific 5 material elements in this world, including earth, water, fire, air, and ether, how these material elements plus the sense objects, respective sense objects like nose for the smell or ears for the sound or the sense of touch for uh, for the skin, how these sense objects have also come out from different subtle sense organs and different from the different sense organs of the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, who has taken the form of Virata Purusha in this cosmic manifestation. And we also saw how from the subtle sense organ of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, the various devatas who are in charges of various respective senses, they also come out. So from the subtle sense organs, the material elements and the sense object come out, and from the gross sense organs of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, the devatas for the respective senses, they come out, and the specific sense of the Virata Rupa. So this we covered last time. So let us discuss text 17 onwards. And this slide did we discuss, Prabhuji's, Mataji's? I think we did discuss, right? How the specific verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, they correspond to specific respective verses in Purusha Sukta prayers. And in fact, we discussed at the beginning of this chapter how that is the reason why Srila Prabhupada entitled this particular chapter as Purusha Sukta Confirm. And we discuss how Purusha Sukta prayers, they form the part of Rigveda, which is considered as one of the topmost amongst the four Vedas. And these, since Vedas are part of the Shrutis, how typically Shankaracharya and especially his followers, they have used these scriptures to propagate their own philosophy of impersonalism. But Acharyas like Srila Prabhupada, and even before Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Baladev Vidyabhushan, ityad, etc., they have taken great efforts to use some of these verses from the Shruti scriptures, which Mayavadis typically use to propagate their impersonalistic philosophy, to drive and prove the Vaishnava Siddhanta. We saw the same point in Ishopanishad, and here also Upanishad also is a part of a Shruti. So here also in another part of Shruti, we see the Acharyas have given explanations to these verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, and also explaining how there are corresponding verses in Purusha Sukta. That means Srimad Bhagavatam, which typically is considered amongst the Smriti literatures, Srimad Bhagavatam, Mahabharat, Ramayana, ityadi, they are considered Smriti literatures. So to establish the authenticity of Smriti by giving their relationship, direct relationship with corresponding verses given in Shrutis. So not that one category of scriptures is higher than the other, but point is, we cannot selectively take one part of the scriptures and tend to drive home a point which is based on a limited understanding. This is the purpose of all these exercises, to establish the position of the Supreme Lord as the personality of Godhead based on the Shruti as well as Smriti literatures. So any questions, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, based on this background to today's discussion? Hare Krishna. All right. So let's start. And we also asked one question at the beginning of last discussion, which was answered by Venkata Narsimha Prabhu very nicely, that how although this universal form has been described at various places in Srimad Bhagavatam, the purpose of description of the universal form, the Virata Rupa of the Lord, is different. Like in the beginning of second canto, in the first chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, the description of universal form is given as the Dharanashray, as the object of meditation for a Ashtanga yogi who is attached to material enjoyment. And now in chapter 6 of second canto, the description of universal form is given to prove that how Lord is both the nimitta karana, the material cause, as well as upadana karana, the efficient or effective cause behind the creation. So let's go through the verse and then we come to the slide. And there is one very, very important verse and purport that I found as part of our discussion today, where we would try to spend bit more time, which is text 20th. So very important point. And those devotees who would like to read through, please keep your hands raised, Prabhuji's, Mataji's. Yes, please try to recite. Swadishnyam pratapan prano.
Swadishnyam
Pratapan
prano
Bahishcha pratapati asau.
Bahishya
Pratapati
asau
Evam virajam pratapams.
Evam
Virajam
virajam
Pratapam
pratapam
Tapati antar vahi puman.
Tapati Antar Vahi
Antarvahi
Puma.
So till now, Prabhuji's Mataji, in the last 16 verses from text 1 until 16, we saw how Krishna has been the cause behind the creation of the underlying ingredients of this world, including earth, water, fire, air, ether, including the sense organs, eyes, nose, tongue, sense of touch, and ears, etc., as well as the sense objects, including the sound, smell, sight, taste, etc., and touch, etc. But so this all proves how Krishna is the material cause, or he is the nimitta karana of the entire creation. Now, in this portion of Srimad Bhagavatam, starting text 17 onwards, Lord Brahma also proves how Lord Krishna is the upadan, or he is the effective cause of all the creation. And the example Lord Brahma mentions here is that of the sun. How the sun, it provides, it energizes the world or the living entities within the world externally and internally. Can anyone explain, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, how is the sun energizing all the living entities externally and internally? Yes, Tarini, Krishna, Kanta, Mataji, how is sun energizing?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Panchanga pranams.
Dandos.
Externally, it gives radiance and remove the darkness.
Yes.
Internally,
as the digestive fire, है ना? And not only as the digestive fire, even the Ayurveda mentions that all the food ingredients that we consume, so the energy of the sun is present to great extent in when the chain is very minimal. That means when the energy of the sun is coming in the vegetables and the fruits, then that energy is available in the maximum format for our body to consume. But when that chain prolongates, like from the vegetables and the grass and the fruits, when that energy is consumed by other animals and those animals are consumed by the living entities, then that energy of the sun is still being consumed, but it is being consumed to a lesser degree. So this is one way how the sun is energizing all the living entities externally as well as internally. So similarly, here it is mentioned, Swadishnyam pratapan prano Bahischa pratapati asau. Even Lord Krishna is also similarly energizing all the living entities both externally and internally. Bahischa and internally as well. Lord Krishna is energizing all the living entities. Like there are various ways to understand. One way is Bhagavad Gita mentions that even sun is radiating energy, taking it from the Brahma Jyoti, taking it from the radiation from the body of the Lord, and then passing that energy to the material world. And plus, we also see Bhagavad Gita 15 chapter mentioning Aham Vaishwanaro Bhutva, that Krishna is also the digestive fire within the belly of all the living entities. So Krishna is also energizing all the living entities internally or and externally. In fact, Krishna is only and through his other agents, including the sun god and all. So we'll go through the translation. And so the purports for many of these verses are bit long, but as much as possible, Prabhujis and Matajis, let's try to be a bit patient and not skip those because these are very important purports. So, Tarini Krishnakanta Mataji, you want to read through?
Hare Krishna. Have to read the translation also, Prabhu.
Yeah, translation and complete purport.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vaibhav Swami Prabhupada, Prabhupada ki jai. The sun illuminates both internally and externally by expanding its radiation. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by expanding His universal form, maintains everything in the creation, both internally and externally. Purport. The universal form of the Lord or the impersonal feature of the Lord known as the Brahmajyoti is clearly explained here and compared to the radiant of the sun. The sunshine may expand all over the universe, but the source of the sunshine, namely the sun planet or the deity known as Surya Narayana, is the basis of such radiation. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, is the basis of the impersonal Brahmajyoti radiation, or the impersonal feature of the Lord. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 14.27. So can I continue, Prabhuji?
Yes, please continue.
So the universal form of the Lord is the secondary imagination of the impersonal form of the Lord, but the primary form of the Lord is Shyama Sundara, with two hands playing on his eternal flute. 75% of the expansive radiation of the Lord is manifested in the spiritual sky, Tripada Vibhuti, and 25% of his personal radiation comprehends the entire expansion of the material universes. This is also explained and stated in the Bhagavad Gita 10.42. Thus, the 75% expansion of his radiation is called his internal energy, whereas the 25% expansion is called the external energy of the Lord. The living entities who are residents of the spiritual as well as the material expansions are his marginal energy, Tatashta Shakti, and they are at liberty to live either of the energies, external or internal. Those who live within the spiritual expansion of the Lord are called liberated souls, whereas the residents of the external expansions are called the conditioned souls. We can just make an estimate of the number of the residents of the internal expansion in comparison with the number of residents in the external energy, and may easily conclude that the liberated souls are far more numerous than the conditioned souls. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. So here in this chapter, we would see the word coming very often, Ekapada Vibhuti and Tripada Vibhuti. So Ekapada Vibhuti and Tripada, as the name would suggest, Tripada means 3 times more and Ekapada means one particular portion. So material creation, which encompasses all the Brahmandas, which encompasses all the universes in which the 14 planetary systems are there, this forms 1/4 of the creation or one part of the creation of the Supreme Lord, which is called the material world. And Tripada, it denotes 3 times greater than the material creation. So spiritual world is 3 times greater than the material cosmic manifestation, which includes all the Brahmandas. So entire set of innumerable Brahmandas coming together, it forms the material world, which is 25% of the entire creation, and 75% is the spiritual world. So material cosmic manifestation is referred to as Ekapada Vibhuti, and spiritual manifestation or spiritual world is referred to as Tripada Vibhuti. And spiritual world is created by the internal energy of the Lord, and material world is created by the external energy. And living entities, they are Tatastha Shakti, they are the marginal potency who have option either to be under internal energy of the Lord, be in the spiritual world, or be under the external energy of the Lord, which is being in the material world. So any questions, Prabhujis, Matajis, on the Ekapada Vibhuti, Tripada Vibhuti, and the percentage wise? How big is the material world? how big is the spiritual world. And typically this you would have heard that the liberated souls, they far outnumber the conditioned souls. Like I often quote one example that I heard from His Grace Radhesham Prabhu. He mentions that just like in a classroom, like there are sometimes naughty students who are mischievous and all, and sometimes teachers put them outside the class as a punishment, and sometimes they are made to do more serious punishment in terms of holding their toes, or in Hindi we call it doing murga and all. So these were punishments. So typically the disobedient students or the mischievous students who are put outside the class, they are very few in number. But those who are studious, sincere, those who are within the class, they in general far outnumber the mischievous students. So we are like those mischievous students who have been put outside the spiritual world by Lord Krishna, and we form typically around 1/4 of the part of the creation, and the spiritual world forms around 3/4 of the entire creation. So is it clear, Prabhuji's, Mataji's? Anyone has any question on this?
Just one
Yes.
clarification, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Murli.
Here, when you say the amount, is it the physical amount, or is it the influence in general of the physical and the spiritual component?
Good question. So one point to understand is, firstly, it means in terms of the expansiveness. So first we have to understand how expansive is the material cosmic manifestation. There is a simple example which Prabhupada quotes at few places. I don't know whether I have searched it here, but Prabhupada, let me see. Yes. So there was a great devotee of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Vasudev Datta, and he happens to be none other than Prahlad Maharaj in Narsingha Leela. So many devotees from Krishna's pastimes or from the pastimes of earlier incarnations of Lord Krishna, they appeared as various associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Vasudev Datta, Prahlad Maharaj appeared as Vasudev Datta. And as we see in the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj in the 7th canto, he prayed to Lord Narsingadev that let all the fools and rascals be delivered first, taken to spiritual world, and I don't mind remaining in the material world, because Prahlad Maharaj was confident of remembering the Lord in each and every situation and still delivering himself by his own strength of devotional service. But he wanted all the foolish people who are attached to sense gratification to be liberated first. So this devotee in Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime, he had a similar mood. He prayed to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that let all the sinful living entities be taken to back home, back to Godhead first, and let him, Vasudev Datta, inherit their sinful reactions, and he was willing to suffer in hell for a long period of time in order to benefit the sinful living entities here. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very moved by this compassionate mood of Vasudev Datta, and he mentioned to Vasudev Datta that, my dear Vasudev, there are so many universes in this material creation. They are just like number of mustard seeds in a bag full of mustard seeds. So you can imagine Murli Prabhu and other devotees, if we contain a bag full of mustard seeds, how many mustard seeds would fit in that? Yes, very difficult to count,
Yes.
numerous, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
the point is, there are that many number of universes in the material cosmic manifestation, the Ekapada Vibhuti, or 1/4 of the creation. And if the Brahmanda is so huge, one universe is so huge, which contains innumerable planets, some of which scientists are still discovering new and new. There are so many planets, so it's a huge one Brahmand. Like that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says there are millions and billions of Brahmandas, which form the cosmic manifestation, and roughly spiritual world is 3 times this. So it means in terms of 2 things: expansiveness of spiritual world, how big it is, plus in terms of the number of liberated living entities, they are also much, much higher than the conditioned living entities, both ways, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. See here, Prabhupada mentions, this universe is only just like a grain of mustard seed amongst millions and trillions of universes. So that analogy of mustard seeds in a bag is given just to give a context. It is practically very difficult to count those grains, but universes are very, very huge in number. So we come back. Now, any other questions, Prabhuji's Mataji? Everybody is clear? What is Ekapada Vibhuti? What is Tripada Vibhuti? Which one is made of the external energy of the Lord? Which one is made of the internal energy of the Lord? And the proportion. How material world is nearly 25%, spiritual world is nearly 75% of the creation. So 75% is 3 times the 25%. Tripada Vibhuti. Everybody is clear? Prabhuji's Mataji's, Devika Mataji and Divya Rukmini Mataji and Reena Mataji and all other devotees. Vivek Sharma Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Okay, so let us proceed. Text 18. So amrutas abhayas shesho. One second. Let me open this verse in Sanskrit so I can read properly. Yeah. So amrutasya bhayasesho. Martyamannam yadatyagat.
Martyam annam yadagagat.
Mahimaisha tato Brahman.
Mahimaisha tato Brahman.
Purushasya duratyayah. So here Lord Brahma is explaining to Narada Muni, because all these descriptions of the Lord are in response to Narada Muni's 6 questions to Brahmaji. So Brahmaji is saying that, my dear boy Narada Muni, or my dear son Narada Muni, Supreme Lord is not just responsible for creation of this cosmic manifestation, but beyond this cosmic manifestation, the material world, there is a humongous, unlimited spiritual world, which is characterized by which all characteristics? Amruta, Abhaya, and Amruta and Abhayasya. That means it is characterized by deathlessness, eternity, eternal life, and it is characterized, the spiritual world is characterized by fearlessness. The living entities living there are not anxious or fearful the way we are always in this material world. Martyam annam yat atyagat. And where the living entities, they are transcendental to the fruitive actions. Mahimamsa tato Brahman Purushasya Duratyayaha. And that Supreme Personality, who is the Lord and Master of that spiritual world, his Mahima or his glorification or glories are Duratyaya, are immeasurable, very difficult to measure and describe. So Lord Brahma is explaining to Narada Muni that although material cosmic manifestation is so expansive, beyond that is the spiritual manifestation, spiritual world, which is even more expansive. And the Lord of that spiritual world, he has created that place in such a way that there is no death, there is no fear or anxiety. And the glories of such a person who is Lord and Master of the spiritual world as well is very difficult to describe and measure. Gita Pradeep Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranams.
Dandavat.
Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the controller of immortality and fearlessness, and he is transcendental to death and the fruitive actions of the material world. O Narada, O Brahmana, it is therefore difficult to measure the glories of the Supreme Person. Purport, Prabhuji?
Yeah, just 1 second. How big is the purport? This is quite big, so we would take the highlighted part. Yes, Mataji.
Purport. The inhabitants of those planets are liberated from birth, death, old age, and diseases, and have full knowledge of everything. They are all godly and free from all sorts of material hankerings. They have nothing to do with they have nothing to do there except to render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Narayana, who is the predominating deity of such Vaikuntha planets. The Supreme Lord, who is the leader of all living entities, can award all the qualities of his personality unto his devotees, including immortality and spiritual bliss. In the material world, there is always anxiety or fearfulness in the hearts of all living entities. But the Lord, being himself the supreme fearless, also awards the same quality of fearlessness to his pure devotees. Mundane existence is itself a kind of fear because in all mundane bodies, the effects of birth, death, old age, and disease always keep a living being compact in fear.
Yes. So we'll take a pause here. So all of you perceive or agree, Prabhujis, Matajis, that in this world, all of us are always subject to different anxieties unless the person is on the liberated platform. But there are anxieties, say for example, like I can give an example which is more relatable to me, and similarly all of you would also have your experiences and perceptions. So say for example, somebody who is leading a household, somebody who is leading and maintaining the family, he always has anxieties at many levels. Say for example, parents who don't have children, they are anxious to have children. Those who have got children, they are anxious to raise children properly with proper samskaras and all, so that they don't go astray. And those whose children are doing well in their, like, basic habits and education and everything, the parents are anxious for the child to achieve such and such glory in their academic life. And sometimes despite achieving all this, there are anxieties of different kind when finally at the in the ripened age of the parents, the child is not obedient or properly taking care of them and neglecting them and all that. So we see in each and every sphere of life, this material world has been designed by the Lord in such a way that Bhagavatam describes this material world as Kunta. Kunta means that place which is full of anxieties. And the spiritual world, on the other hand, Bhagavatam compares is Vaikuntha. That means where there is no anxiety, there is no fear. And specifically in the 10th canto, there is a beautiful description of the residents of the spiritual planet in contrast to the residents of the material world. So in the material world, because of constantly being in anxiety and insecurity, we see one living entity is always envious towards the other living entities, wanting to somehow or other surpass the other living entities to try to get their enjoyment. But the spiritual world, Bhagavatam mentions, is not like that. It is explained that in Krishna's pastime, when a bumblebee starts singing, then the chakaras and the cuckoos and the peacocks and all other birds, they completely stay silent in order to hear the glorification of the Lord being sung by this bumblebee. Why? Because they are appreciative of each other and they want to glorify the Lord. They are happy to see somebody else being able to perform a service which is much, much better than them. So they are never in anxiety. They are never in any insecurity. That is spiritual world. That's why it is called as Vaikuntha. But this material world, there is always a cutthroat competition. Bhagavatam says that one person, he thinks that if other person is succeeding, then I must be a failure. So there is always a sense of false competition and false insecurity and fearfulness. That's why this world is called as kuntha. Always everyone is full of anxieties. So here Bhagavata mentions that if we take shelter of Lord Krishna, he himself being supremely fearless, he is also able to award the same quality of fearlessness to his pure devotees. And that Vaishnava song that we have often referred to as part of our discussions. Anybody recollects Prabhuji's Mataji's, which is the Vaishnava song, which talks about achieving fearlessness? Anyone? That is by a very famous Vaishnava Acharya in our line of disciplic succession. Please try, don't worry about being right or wrong. Everybody should try. Let me see. Ask. Divya Rukmini Mataji, Hare Krishna. I know many of you would know this song for sure. Vaishnava song. Which is the Vaishnava song where it talks about being completely fearless by taking shelter of Krishna?
Sorry, Prabhu, I don't remember.
Okay, I know for if I tell you a hint, you would remember. Bhajahu Remana.
But yeah, Prabhu, yeah, I know.
Yeah? Bhajahu Remana Sri Nanda Nandana Abhaya Charanara Vindare Durlabha Manava Janama Samsare. One second now, what is that?
Durlabha Manava Janava Satsange.
Satsange Tarahu Yei Bhava
Bhava.
Sindhure. Yes, correct. So that song, Govinda Das sings that if we take shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, then we would be able to achieve true fearlessness. The problem is many of us, we don't even realize how each and every moment the anxiety is killing us. Like it is mentioned that there is one dot difference between chitta and chinta. So a chitta or the funeral pyre, it burns a person when the person is dead, after the person is dead. But chinta or anxiety or fearfulness burns a person right when the person is still living within the world. So it is very, very important for all of us that to try to strive to achieve this fearlessness by taking shelter of Lord Krishna. So is this point clear, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, the reason for anxiety, fearfulness amongst the living entities in this material world versus why these characteristics don't exist in the residents of the spiritual world, and how if we take shelter of Lord Krishna's lotus feet, he is the only one who is able to award us fearlessness. Anyone has any question? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. More than
Yes.
a question, a general comment or something.
Yes, yes.
This Abhaya is coming from Amrita also, isn't it? Because there is no death.
No death.
Yeah?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes,
so it means that there is no end. So in this case, because there is no end, people are more, the souls are more, they don't fear anything. Whereas, yeah, is good.
Yes,
Could be
and they are completely dependent on Krishna.
On the Lord.
On
yes,
the Lord.
of course.
Like one example we can find is in the Krishna book, we see how the Gopa friends, how the coward friends of Lord Krishna, although demons were attacking Vrindavan every single day, they were never in fear about their lives because they had complete faith that Krishna is there. When Krishna is there, we don't have to fear. So they had complete faith even in that pastime of Aghasur. We see Krishna was anxious that my friends are entering into the body of this great python demon or snake demon, Aghasur, but the boys were completely fearless. So that is the mood of the residents of spiritual planet. Also, we see the example of Arjuna in the battlefield of Mahabharata. There have been so many instances when Arjuna was completely free of anxiety, but Krishna was in anxiety. Why? For the safety and security of his devotee. Like when Arjuna took the vow of killing Jayadratha before the next sunset, Krishna was in anxiety that I must do something to make sure Arjuna is able to catch Jayadratha, otherwise my devotee would be dead. Or when Bhishma gave those 5 arrows, handed those 5 arrows to Duryodhan, which were meant to kill Pandavas next day, Krishna was anxious and he arranged for Arjuna to go and ask for those 5 arrows. So we see a devotee who has taken complete shelter of the Lord is also fearless by the mercy of the Lord.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes,
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, just I don't know. There is one shloka regarding this one in canto 3. Madbhayad vadi vadoyam suryastabadi madbhayad vashadi indro jagatyagna mrithyuscharadi madbhayad. It's in third canto, Prabhu. It's clearly mentioned. Everything is because everything is fearing for Krishna. But if we surrender to Krishna, there is nothing. We don't need to fear for anything.
Thank you.
Madbhayad. It's a 3 to. Sorry, 3. I don't remember.
That's fine. So even Kunti Devi's prayers, we do see that she says that that Supreme Lord is fearful of Mother Yashoda, of whom the fear personified itself is afraid of Krishna. So Krishna is completely fearless. Even the fear personified Yamaraj is afraid of Lord Krishna. So we proceed with the purport. Who was reading? Was it Gita Mataji? Gita Mataji, Hare Krishna.
The changing effects of eternal time are conspicuously absent in the immortal kingdom of God, which should therefore be understood to have no influence of time and therefore no fear whatsoever.
All of you know this word, conspicuous, Prabhuji's Mataji's?
Conspicuous.
Conspicuous. Conspicuous. Conspicuous means it is visible or in effect. So, say for example, the time factor is conspicuous by its absence in the spiritual world. What does it mean? That the effect of time is not there in the spiritual world. That means in the material world, say for example, 22nd of Feb 2026, 10:51. That means 10:50 is already past. That moment is already gone, and we are older now by 1 moment or 1 minute. But in the spiritual world, the time is conspicuous by its absence. That means the effect of time factor, they do not exist in the spiritual world. That means the residents don't grow old, the residents don't have disease, or they don't have to face death. So that is the meaning of conspicuous. That means the time factor is, the effect is visible by its not having any effect on any living entity. That means the time factor has 0 effect in the spiritual world. That's why the residents are never in fear. Yes, Mataji, such unalloyed
spiritual bliss is nowhere to be found within the orbit of the material universe, including the Janaloka planets, or for that matter, the Maharloka or Satyaloka planets, because even Lord Brahma is subject to the laws of fruitive actions and the law of birth and death.
Thank you. Is Ananta Ajiteshwar Prabhu in the audience? Prabhuji had once asked this question about Lord Brahma being subject to death. So yes, he is definitely subject to death. So we proceed with the next verse. Anyone has any questions? If not, we proceed. Text 19. So till now, we saw in the first part of this chapter, till text 16, how Krishna is the material cause in terms of creation of material elements, senses, sense objects, etc. Then in 17 onwards, we saw how Krishna is also the Upadana cause, or he is the effective or efficient cause of the cosmic manifestation creation. Now we go further. Padeshu sarvabhutani
Sarvabhutani
Pumsa sthiti pado viduhu
Pumsa sthiti pado viduhu
Amrutam Kshemam Abhayam
Amritam Kemam Abhayam
Trimurdno Dhyai Murdhasu.
Trimurdo Adhyayamurdasu.
Yeah. So there is a corresponding verse that exists in Purusha Sukta. As such, for your studies, this is not a mandatory to know the Purusha Sukta prayers. Srimad Bhagavatam, knowing Srimad Bhagavatam verses is sufficient, but this is just for our understanding. So if we go to Purusha Sukta and see this specific verse, Padosya Vishwa Bhutani, we can see. Yes. So this is the verse in Purusha Sukta that is corresponding to the Srimad Bhagavatam verse, which is text 19. Gunavati Jayashri Mataji translation.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna. Hare Krishna. Yes.
Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is to be known as the supreme reservoir of all material opulences by the 1/4 of his energy in which all the living entities exist. Deathlessness, fearlessness, and freedom from the anxieties of old age and disease exist in the kingdom of God, which is beyond the 3 higher planetary systems and beyond the material coverings. Should I proceed?
So what are the symptoms or characteristics of the spiritual world are mentioned? Amrutam, Kshemam, Abhayam. Amrutam means eternal life, deathlessness. Kshemam means freedom from the anxiety of being deceased, which exists in the material world. And Abhayam means fearlessness. Purport, highlighted part. Just 1 second. How big? Yeah, purport is big. So we'll go through highlighted part.
Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Out of the total manifestation of the Sandhini energy of the Lord, 1/4 is displayed in the material world and the 3/4 are displayed in the spiritual world. The Lord's energy is divided into 3 component parts, namely Sandhini, Samvit and Haladini. In other words, He is the full manifestation of existence, knowledge and bliss.
Thank you, Mataji. So before we proceed to the next part of the purport, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, would anybody volunteer to explain these 3 potencies of the Supreme Lord, Samdhini, Samvit and Ladini? What do these mean? In very simple layman's language, in English. Anyone? Try. This is a Tattva question. Tattva means understanding the basic principles in spiritual life. It's very, very important. Anyone? Okay, first of all, have you heard these words earlier, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, in your readings, in hearing of the classes, etc.?
Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Prabhuji, who was?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji.
Sandhini is the internal energy. Samvit is marginal energy, and Ladini is the external energy.
Okay, one is correct. Ladini is the internal pleasure potency of Lord Krishna. That is correct. So rest 2 are not correct. Sandhini and Samvit, what do these potencies denote? You have the hint on the screen. So Sandhini, it is called as the existential potency. That means it is the expansion of the Sandhini energy of the Lord through which the spiritual world and the material world is created. Very simple. So we see Lord Krishna's characteristics as Satchit Ananda, eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. Similarly, soul also has that characteristic. So full of bliss you can consider corresponds to Ladini potency. Eternity corresponds to the Samdhini potency, and knowledge, cognizant, it corresponds to the Samvit potency. So Samvit means Krishna being fully cognizant, fully knowledgeable of everything. Sandhini means the creative or existential potency, as Chaitanya Charitamrita mentions. So of which the spiritual and the material cosmic manifestation is created, and Ladini means Krishna's pleasure potency, full of bliss. Is that all right, Prabhuji's Mataji? This is very important. Please don't stay clueless. Say if devotees, they get lined up for initiation and these basic concepts are not clear,
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
It doesn't portray a good picture. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, is it Satchit Ananta? That is the...
Yeah,
is it the one?
yeah, so eternity full of bliss and knowledge. This is a known terminology in English. But question was, what do Krishna's major three potencies, Sandhini, Samvit, and Ladini, how do they correspond to these three characteristics of Lord Krishna?
Yeah, Radhini Shakti is coming Radharani, no?
Yeah, that Radharani is the manifestation of the Ladini Shakti. But in plain English, it means the pleasure potency of the Lord. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Yeah, Prabhu.
You wanted to ask? Yeah.
I have some questions, but
No.
Can I ask, Prabhu?
Yes.
Prabhu, it's mentioned that Santini Shakti, that is the expanding to the material energy, material energy,
world.
Material world. That means the 3/4 of that one. That is 25% is expanding to as material world, material energy.
Right.
Okay.
And 75% is spiritual world.
Spiritual world. Prabhu, I was coming more. We can continue, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So let me confirm with other devotees. These terms might seem a bit technical, but they are very important. These are Krishna's potencies. These are not ordinary details. Okay. So if anybody is not clear, feel free to ask second time, third time. But knowing Krishna's basic potencies is very important. He is the person about whom we are trying to learn. Gunavati Mataji, please proceed.
Hare Krishna. In the material world, the planetary systems are arranged in 3 spheres called Triloka, or Swarga, Martya, and Patala, and all of them constitute only 1/4 of the total Sandhini energy. Beyond that is the spiritual sky, where the Vaikuntha planet exists beyond the coverings of 7 material strata. In none of the 3 loka planetary systems can one experience the status of immortality, full knowledge, and full bliss. Should I continue, Prabhupada?
Yeah, please, Mataji.
The upper 3 planetary systems are called Satvika planets because they provide facilities for a long duration of life and relative freedom from disease and old age, as well as a sense of fearlessness. The great sages and saints are promoted beyond the heavenly planets to Maharloka, but that also is not the place of complete fearlessness, because at the end of one kalpa, the Maharloka is annihilated and the inhabitants have to transport themselves to still higher planets. Yet, even on these planets, no one is immune to death. There may be a comparative extension of life, expansion of knowledge, and sense of full bliss, but factual deathlessness, fearlessness, and freedom from old age, disease, etc. are possible only beyond the material spheres of the covering of the material sky. Such things are situated on the head Adhyayi Murdhasu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So here, if you see the 14 planetary systems, so till Swargaloka, above Earth, this is called as upper planetary system. Earth is called as Martyaloka or middle planetary system. And the planetary systems below Earth, 7, Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patala. These are called as the lower planetary systems. So above upper planetary systems, the planetary systems starting with Maharloka, they are called as Satvika planet. That means spiritually advanced living entities, they reside there, starting from Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapoloka, and Satyaloka. But although these personalities are spiritually advanced, are they completely out of or free from the cycle of birth and death? The answer is no. They still need to, even up to Lord Brahma, they are subject to death, but they are advanced compared to the residents of Swargaloka or compared to the residents of Martyaloka. And we discussed some time back that when the normal annihilation of this cosmic manifestation happens, when the day of Lord Brahma ends, the top 4 planetary system, they are not annihilated, Maharloka onwards. So Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka, they won't get annihilated until and unless Brahmaji's own life is completing or ending. That time, at the end of lifespan of Lord Brahma, all the residents of these planets, provided they have attained perfection, along with Lord Brahma, they would also be taken to spiritual world. Until then, during the like other annihilations or inundations of the world, these 4 planetary systems are not impacted. So Bhagavatam mentions that even their residents, while they are free from the anxieties for old age disease, they are also subject to death. Any questions, Prabhujis, Matajis? Hare Krishna. All right. So now we would come to a very important verse in this section, and important in the sense, especially the purport of this verse. My request, Prabhujis, Matajis, no amount of discussion can do justice to reading the purport. So I request all of you to read very thoroughly in your leisure time these purports. Try to read each and every statement and each and every word and contemplate on it. Very important verse. Please try to repeat. One second. Yes. Padastrayo chasan.
Padastrayo
Aprajanam ya ashramaha.
Aprajanamya ashramaha.
Antastrilokyastva aparo.
Antastrilokyasparo.
Graha medho abrahat vrataha. So the last 2 words in this verse are not brahat vrataha, they are abrahat vrataha. You can see in the translation. So brahat vrataha, that means one who has taken vow of, topmost quality of rendering devotional service, following the rules and regulations. And abrahat vrataha means one who is not following this strict rules of devotional service, especially with reference to celibacy. And such people are referred to as Graha Medho. Typically, we hear this word Graha Medhi about those householders who are not leading a very Shastric life as per the Vedic injunctions, who are leading an unregulated life. But in this context, Graha Medhi is not just an unregulated householder, it also applies to other 3 classes as well, who are not leading the life as per the scriptural injunctions, namely Brahmachari, Grahastha, and Brahmachari, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasis as well. They can also be categorized as Graha Medhi, provided they don't stick to the regulations. So this is the important verse. Let's go through the translation and highlighted part of purport. Rohini Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Translation. The spiritual world, which consists of 3/4 of the Lord's energy, is situated beyond this material world, and it is especially meant for those who will never be reborn. Others, who are attached to family life and who do not strictly follow celibacy vows, must live within the 3 material worlds.
Thank you, Mataji. So before we go to the purport, just remember this statement and we would come back to this. What does it mean by those who don't follow the vow of celibacy? Does it mean that the householders of grahasthas are totally out of queue to go to spiritual world? The answer is no, not like that. It means, what does celibacy mean? We would try to understand based on the scriptural injunctions and why this regulation is very, very stressed. So let me see, purport is a bit long, so we would go step by step through the highlighted portions. Yes, Master.
Hare Krishna. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada ki Jai. The climax of the system of Varnashrama Dharma or Sanatana Dharma is clearly expressed here in this particular verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. The highest benefit that can be awarded to a human being is to train him to be detached from sex life, particularly because it is only due to sex indulgence that the conditioned life of material existence continues birth after birth. Human civilization, in which there is no control of sex life, is a fourth class civilization because in such an atmosphere there is no liberation of the soul encaged in the material body. Can I continue?
Continue.
Birth, death, old age, and disease are related to the material body and they have nothing to do with the spirit soul. But as long as the bodily attachment for sensual enjoyment is encouraged, the individual spirit soul is forced to continue the repetition of birth and death on account of the material body, which is compared to garments subjected to the law of deterioration.
Thank you. Thank you. So here we see that Srimad Bhagavatam and scriptures in general, they here Prabhupada begins the purport with an excellent statement. He says, the climax of the system of Varnashram Dharma or Sanatan Dharma is clearly expressed here in this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. That means all aspects of Varnashram institution, they gradually train and encourage the living entities, the followers, with gradual detachment and regulation from this point of indulgence in sexual life. So is are the scriptures or is Sanatan Dharma against this particular principle of procreation? So the answer is not at all. Not at all. It is not contrary or against the principle of procreation. Because if that was the case, the entire population of the living entities coming from Lord Brahma would not have been generated only. In fact, we see Lord Brahma's primary duty is creation. And not only Lord Brahma's duty, but even his first set of children, they are all called Prajapatis, to whom Lord Brahma personally assigned this service of procreation. So definitely Sanatan Dharma cannot be against procreation. But what is it against? It is against frivolous or unregulated mixing of the opposite gender where the bodily attachment increases greatly. So specifically there comes a verse in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam from the teachings of Lord Rishabdev to his sons led by Bharat Maharaj, in which he mentions Pumsa Striya Mithuni Bhavam Etam Tayor Mitor Rudaya Granthim Ahu Ato Graha Kshetra Sutapta Vittair Janasya Mohoyam Aham Mameti. He mentions that this particular attachment between a man and a woman, it results in Tayor Mitho Rudaya Granthim Ahuhu. It results in tightening of the knots of attachment within the hearts of the living entities. And as a result, person gets into so many other extended misconceptions in the form of this house is mine, this land and property is mine, this relatives and the acquaintances and the close friends and society are mine. This vittair, this property and bank balance is mine. So all this increase the material attachment for the living entity, and he becomes entangled in the conception of I and mine. Janasya mohoyam aham mameti. So the main problem is not procreation, Prabhuji's Mataji's. Sanatan Dharma is perfectly to allow union between opposite genders for the procreation of Krishna conscious progeny. No problem about that. But when that attachment is on the bodily platform, then we see that all other attachments, they continue to develop, including attachment to one's near and dear ones, property, bank balance, so on and so forth. And person becomes entangled in this conception of aham mameti. So what is Varnashram institution meant to do? Varnashram institution is meant to gradually teach detachment from this propensity of tightening the knots of material entanglement. So in the brahmachari life, there is complete abstinence. So student is taught in such a way that he is able to learn under the shelter of guru without any unregulated indulgence. Basically without any indulgence, not just unregulated, without any indulgence. And when the student is qualified, then he is allowed, if he wants, he can enter into grahastha life, or if he doesn't want, he can continue life as a celibate, as a brahmachari. That is not a compulsion. In fact, it is mentioned that a disciple is bound to follow each and every instruction of the spiritual master except for one instruction. And what is that instruction? Instruction to get married. Even if that instruction is disobeyed, it is not considered as an offense. So why all these concessions are given? Because the dangers, the perils of union between opposite genders, if there is no proper consciousness or regulations, scriptures know about it. That's why so many regulations. So brahmachari life, no indulgence. Grahastha life, regulated indulgence. And then vanaprastha and sannyas life, again, no indulgence at all. Complete abstinence. So that's why Varnashram institution, it propagates a gradual regulation and abstinence and detachment from sexual indulgence. So here in the later part of the purport, we will discuss this in more detail when we conclude the purport. We will see two examples from the life of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how he dealt with two of his devotees. One was Chota Haridas, who was in the renounced order of life, and second was Shivananda Sen, who was a grahastha, a householder. So let us go through remaining purport. Rohini Mataji, Hare Krishna. A householder.
A householder attached to family life can easily give up such a life of sex indulgence if he has been trained in the principles of the life of a brahmachari. A householder is recommended to quit home at the end of 50 years. Pancha Shurdhvam Vanam Vrajet, and live a life in the forest. Then, being fully detached from family affection, he may accept the order of renunciation as a sannyasi fully engaged in the service of the Lord. Can I continue, Prabhuji?
Yes, ma'am.
Any form of religious principles in which the followers are trained to pursue the vow of celibacy is good for the human being, because only those who are trained in that way can end the miserable life of material existence.
Thank you. So before we proceed, just contemplate on the statement marked in pink. Any form of religious principles in which the followers are trained to pursue the vow of celibacy is good for human being. That means even the path of impersonalism or other sects like the path of Ashtanga Yoga or the path of Jnana Marga or Bhakti Yoga, all these paths have one thing in common, that no unregulated indulgence of senses. All these paths have one thing in common. And Prabhupada mentions that it is good that this regulation is common across these paths, because that denotes the importance of, taking care of this regulation so as not to increase the knots of material attachment. So this particular underlying principle, whether you go for Ashtanga Yoga, Jnana Marga or Bhakti Marga, regulation of the senses is very, very important. Yes, Mataji, please continue.
Hare Krishna. The householders and persons who have deliberately broken the vow of celibacy cannot enter into the kingdom of deathlessness. The pious householders or the fallen yogis or the fallen transcendentalists can be promoted to the higher planets within the material world, one-fourth of the energy of the Lord, but they will fail to enter the kingdom of deathlessness. Abrahad vratas are those who have broken the vow of celibacy. The vanaprasthas or those retired from family life and the sannyasis or the renounced persons cannot break the vow of celibacy if they want success in the process.
Continue.
Such a fall down by the spiritualist may be compensated by another chance for human life in good families of learned brahmanas or of rich merchants from another term of elevation.
Thank you. Thank you. So here it is mentioned that if a householder does not be careful in following this principle of celibacy and remains attached for this bodily attachments, then next life is very sure. In fact, I was shocked to read this statement that such people, they cannot be promoted to the spiritual world. They would have to come back to this material world if we don't achieve this qualification of gradual detachment from the bodily platform, from the bodily attachments. Then only we can expect to be eligible to enter spiritual world. Very, very important. And in the last part of the purport, Srila Prabhupada gives example of Chota Haridas. Mataji, you can conclude. Lord Chaitanya.
Lord Chaitanya was very strict in advising his followers in this matter of celibacy. One of his personal attendants, Chota Haridasa, was severely punished by Lord Chaitanya because of his failure to observe the vow of celibacy. For a transcendentalist, therefore, who at all wants to be promoted to the kingdom beyond material miseries, it is worse than suicide to deliberately indulge in sex life, especially in the renounced order of life. Sex life is the renounced order of the life is the most perverted form of religious life, and such a misguided person can only be saved if by chance he meets a pure devotee. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you, Manoj. So here the example is quoted is of Chota Haridas, who was in the renounced order of life. He was one of the associates of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Chaitanya Charitamrita explains that how once when he went to beg alms, charity from different households, in one particular household, the woman giving the charity, she was a young woman, and for a moment, he happened to look at her lustily and he immediately corrected himself. It is not that he continued that distraction, but when he brought the alms, handed them over to devotees, and using that bhoga, when prasadam was prepared for Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked the devotees, "Oh, this is a very opulent prasadam. From where did you get these ingredients?" And the devotees mentioned to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that these were gotten as alms by Chota Haridas. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately became very silent and grave. And subsequently, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told the devotees that he doesn't want to associate with Chota Haridas at all as part of his circle of associates. And devotees were stunned. Nobody knew what had happened. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being the Paramatma or super soul within everyone's heart, he understood what had happened. And Chota Haridas understood why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had become upset with him. And because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu abandoned the association of Chota Haridas just to teach a lesson, Chota Haridas subsequently gave up his life, committing suicide. And And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but of course, in the eternity sense, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not give up upon Chota Haridas, because after his death, Chota Haridas still used to sing beautiful bhajans for the pleasure of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to relish singing of those bhajans by Chota Haridas. So point is, sex life as such is not condemned, provided it is for the purpose of bringing in Krishna conscious progeny in this world and raising those children as Krishna's devotees, then it is not condemned. But that part of the activity for one's own sense pleasure or for bodily attachment is very much condemned. So on the opposite side, in contrast to Chota Haridas, we see the example of another great devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shivananda Sen. So Shivananda Sen was one of the very dear associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was a householder. And when his wife was pregnant with their third child, when the child was still within the womb of the woman, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu blessed this couple, Shivananda Sen and his wife, and he told Shivananda Sen that this child should be named as Puri Dasa. And subsequently, this child of third son of Shivananda Sen, it came to be known as Kavi Karnapur, and there are various beautiful compositions that are composed by Kavi Karnapur, including commentary on this beautiful composition, Krishna Karnamrita. And in the picture, second photo on the right hand side, I could not exactly get the photo of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu blessing Shivananda Sen and his pregnant wife. But this is the photo where the eldest son of Shivananda Sen, whose name was Chaitanya Das, he was such a great devotee that he pleased Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by understanding his mind. So one time he fed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with very sumptuous items, list of different prasada preparations which were very, very opulent. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, out of his love for this devotee, he accepted those foodstuffs. But he soon was not very happy, because for a sannyasi, it is not proper to accept very opulent foodstuffs. So next time when Chaitanya Das came to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he offered to him various herbs and very simple sattvic food items which were consistent with the sannyasi rules and regulations. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very happy with Chaitanya Das that he has understood Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's heart and desire, that he is not bringing in such opulent foodstuffs, but he is offering very simple herbs and simple foodstuffs which are as per the sannyasi regulations. So point is, two sets of devotees. One set is a grahastha, that means he is definitely indulging in this whatever union between man and woman, but that is being done in a regulated fashion in service to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so pleased, he is giving his own blessings even before the child is born, that this child should be named Puri Das, and he would engage greatly in service to Lord Krishna. He is granting his blessings. But other devotee, because he has accepted sannyas order, Chota Haridas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very strict with him, and he is not willing to forgive him even for minute digression or distraction from that followers of the strict sannyasa rules. When Chota Haridas looked lustily one moment, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu abandoned him from his association. So this proves the importance of following celibacy in all walks of life. So being a grahastha doesn't mean we can't be celibate. Being a celibate in grahastha life means that we indulge in this particular activity as per the regulations given in the scriptures and not in an irregular or unregulated manner. Is it clear, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, Hare Krishna? I hope nobody has got a misconception that Sanatan Dharma is against family life. Not at all. Just that Sanatan Dharma is against an unregulated family life. Is it clear, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, the examples?
Yes, Prabhuji,
Yes,
yes.
Prabhuji.
This is a very important part, because as you can read in the purport, Bhagavatam says that if we don't take care of this, forget going back home, back to Godhead. We would have to come back to this material world. Very important. Hare Krishna. And one more last point, that sex life doesn't only mean the physical bodily indulgence. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to mention puja, labha, pratishtha, shukarera, vishta, that satisfying our false ego is also type of a subtle sense gratification or subtle sex life. So we have to be very careful when we talk about abstinence or following completely regulated life. It means that we have to abstain from both the gross unregulated sex life as well as the subtle one. Hare Krishna. So let us proceed. I think we are going bit slow compared to the verses. Yeah. Any questions, Prabhuji's, Mataji's? If not, we proceed to the next verse. Hare Krishna. All right. So let us proceed. Text 21. Shruti vichakrame vishwan.
Shruti vichakrame
Vishwan.
Shasha Shashana Shashanana Ube.
Shashana Shani
Yat avidya cha vidya cha.
Yat
Yat
avidya
avidya
cha
vidya
vidya cha
Purushastubhyayashayah.
Purushasthu
Yashaya.
Hare Krishna. Usha Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, pranams.
Danda.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada ki Jai. By his energies, the all-pervading personality of Godhead is thus comprehensively the master in the activities of controlling and in devotional service. He is the ultimate master of both nescience and factual knowledge of all situations.
Thank you, Mataji. So before we go through the purports, let's try to go through the verse again. It is mentioned, Shruti Vichakrame Vishwan. Vishwan, that means that Supreme Lord who has expanded or pervaded across the cosmic manifestation. Shasana Sane Ubhe. Two types of activities or paths are mentioned. One is Shasan, which means the path of regulated, Shasan means lording it over the material nature or path of leading our life unregulated way. And Anashane, that means activities which are in devotional service. So this particular verse I would cover using the slide. There are two paths, two qualifications, two paths, and two types of destinations that are mentioned. So one is the path of Anashan, that Anshan. You must have heard word Anshan in Hindi. It means abstinence or fasting, not consuming food. So here it means abstinence from sense gratification or regulated life. It's called as Anshan. And what is the qualification for following this path of regulated life? One should be in knowledge, vidya. And what would be the destination? One would achieve Tripada Vibhuti, that means spiritual world. On the other hand, one who is in nescience, ignorance, or avidya, he follows the path of shasan, which is the path of indulgence. Or you can use the word pravritti marga for shasan, that means the path of indulgence, and nivritti marga for anshan, which means the path of regulation, the path of devotional service. So if we follow the path of materialistic life, indulgence, when we are in avidya, then the destination would be, we would end up in ekapada vibhuti, that means this material world. And here I have given two verses of Bhagavad Gita to explain that following this path of Vidya can only take us to the platform of equanimity, like na shochati na kangshati. Brahma bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kangshati. That means a person who is really in knowledge would not lament, would not hanker, but still for him to experience the ultimate bliss, what he needs to do? Engage in devotional service to the Lord. Like in the next verse, it is mentioned, only such person who indulges in devotional service to the Lord, he can experience the ananda of Vishate Tat Anantaram. He can experience unending happiness if that person is engaged in devotional service. Just Vidya alone can't bring us eternal happiness. We need to include devotional service. Only then one can achieve unending happiness. Any question, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, or any comments or thoughts? Hare Krishna. What is Pravritti Marga? What is Nivritti Marga? Everybody is clear? Anybody has any doubts? Those who have been very quiet, Nityangi Mataji, Radhika Ratnanga Mataji, and other devotees. Hare Krishna. Are these terminologies clear? Any queries here?
Clear, Prabhuji. Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
Okay, fine. Oops. So let's go to subsequent verses. One second. Yeah. Please try to recite text 22. Yasmat andam virat jatne jatne.
Yasmandam virat jatne
Bhutendriya gunatmakaha.
bhutendriya gunatmakaha
Tad dravyam atyagad vishwam.
tat dravyam
Vishwam
Gobi surya ivatapan.
Gopi
surya
Ivatapan.
Anybody would like to read Lalita Vinodini Mataji translation?
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. From that personality of Godhead, all the universal globes and universal form with all material elements, qualities, and senses are generated. Yet, he is aloof from such material manifestations like the sun, which is separate from its rays and heat.
Thank you.
Prabhuji, should we read all the purport?
Let me see. Purport is a bit long. 1 second. Okay, Mataji, let's go on.
Shall I continue? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
The supreme truth has been ascertained in the previous verse as Purusha or the Purushottama, the supreme person. The absolute person is the Ishvara or the supreme controller by his different energies. The Ekapad Vibhuti manifestation of the material energy of the Lord is just like one of the many mistresses of the Lord, by whom the Lord is not so much attracted, as indicated in the language of Gita, Bhinna Prakritihi. But the region of Tripada Vibhuti, being a pure spiritual manifestation of the energy of the Lord, is, so to speak, more attractive to him.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji. So one important point that is mentioned here in this verse, the Ekapada Vibhuti, the material cosmic manifestation, which is 25%, 1/4, it is very expansive, but for Krishna, the Bhagavata mentions, it is like a mistress which is not very dear or which doesn't attract Krishna much. So say, for example, a task which is not very dear or which is not very palatable to us, what we would do with that task versus a task which is very, very close to our heart? Prabhuji's, Mataji's, can you think? Say let me give you an example. Say for example, a person, he needs to get his car washed, but that is not a very task of his liking, versus a person who needs to bring his own daughter or son from the airport when the son or daughter are coming home after a long period of time. What do you think would be typical approach of a person in getting these two tasks done? A task which is not very important or which he doesn't relish much versus a task which is very close to his heart. What would be the difference?
We
Yes.
would delegate what we do not like much.
Very nice. Yes, Mataji. So that task which is not very liking to us, which we don't relish much, we would delegate that task to our maybe maid servants or watchman or somebody who we can pay and compensate for. But the task which is very close to our heart, we would not delegate. In general, if we by all means we can, if we can go to the airport to bring the son or daughter who is returning home after long, we would want to do it by ourselves. We won't like to delegate it to somebody else, right? So here, Lord Krishna, the material creation is not very happy task for him. So what he does, it is Bhinna Prakriti. He delegates that task to Maya Shakti, the Mahamaya Shakti or material energy that let this creation happen. So he is owning it, but he is getting it done through his agents. He is not himself taking very much interest. But when it comes to serving his devotees, pleasing his devotees, for example, Krishna taking the slippers of Nanda Maharaj on his head. When Nanda Maharaj asked him to bring his slippers, Krishna personally takes those on his head and brings it to Nanda Maharaj. Why? Because that task given by devotee is very, very dear to him. Or when Sudama visits Lord Krishna's palace in Dwarka, Krishna doesn't send his servant to welcome Sudama. What does he do? He himself goes to the gate of the palace to welcome his dear friend Sudama. And not only that, he brings him in his palace and makes him sit on his bedstead. And he himself, as well as his good wife, Rukmini Devi fans Sudama with the charmer, and Lord Krishna personally washes his feet. So point is, because serving his devotee is a task which is very dear to Lord Krishna's heart, he doesn't delegate it to his agents or servants. But creation of the material world, because as a loving father, Prabhupada says, Krishna doesn't want his children to go away because of their rebellious behavior. So it is an unpleasant task for Krishna to create this material world just to try to reform the rebellious living entities. So what does he do? He delegates that task to Maya Devi for creation. And Brahmaji gives the example in this verse, Go bihi Surya Iva Tapan. So that means when sun wants to radiate his energy to enlighten and to energize a particular portion of the universe, what does the sun do? Does it go by itself? It pervades its energy in the form of sun rays. Similarly, Krishna also pervades his energy for the creation of material cosmic manifestation through the Mahamaya potency. But service to his devotees, he doesn't hand it over to Mahamaya. He personally likes to do those tasks. Is this point clear, Prabhuji's, Mataji's? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So here, if you refer to the second line, let me just 1 second. Bhutendriya gunatmaka tat dravyam atyagat vishwam. So he creates these universes, but at the same time remains aloof from them, because that is not a very pleasurable activity for him to see the living entities suffer being away from him. So let's proceed. So now, Lord Brahma, from text 17 onwards till text 22, he took a slight detour by explaining how Narada Muni, how Lord Krishna is not just the source of material creation, but beyond this Ekapada Vibhuti, he is also the Lord and Master of Tripada Vibhuti, the spiritual world. And he explained through few examples including example of the sun, those activities which Krishna relishes, he does personally. Those activity which he doesn't like much, he employs his energy to do that task. So now Brahmaji, from text 23 till 30th, Brahmaji explains his own personal understanding through his senses, pratyaksha praman, of how Lord Krishna is the creator, or from him all these material and spiritual manifestation, how it is coming. Lord Brahma is explaining to Narada Muni through his personal sense perception, understanding. Are we on track, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, how the flow is progressing? Hare Krishna?
Yes,
Or is
yes,
it very...
Prabhuji.
You can note it down, okay? And in future, Hare Krishna. Okay, noted. So, if during your revision, if you don't understand a particular point of the flow, you can always ask, but at least effort-wise, you make sure that we note down these items. Don't rely on the brain alone. Otherwise, we would forget. Prabhuji's, Mataji's, Hare Krishna. So, we'll proceed. Text 23. Yadasya nabhyan nalinaat aham asam mahatmanah
Aham asam mahatmanah
navidam yagya sambharan
navidam yagya sambharan
purusha vayavan rute.
Purushavayavan rite.
Next set of devotees, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, anybody wants to read through? Hare Krishna. Sanjukta Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandas. Yes.
So, translation. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. When I was born from the abdomen lotus flowers of the Lord Mahavishnu, the great person, I had no ingredients for sacrificial performances except the bodily limbs of the great personalities of Godhead.
Thank you.
Purport, Prabhuji.
Purport we would discuss in the context, Mataji, because these purports are a bit technical, so I can explain. So don't get confused, first of all, by the use of word Mahavishnu, because first point which might come to our mind is that Lord Brahma, he is born of a lotus flower emanating from the navel of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So as you can see in the purport, Prabhupada subsequently does explain how Brahmaji is coming from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu only. So don't get stuck at this point, okay? Prabhuji's, Mataji's, Brahmaji is coming from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu only, but Mahavishnu is the source of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So in the purport, Prabhupada is explaining that how Brahma is called as Swayambhu. So Swayambhu, that means he's not born like an ordinary child is born out of a father and mother's union. He is born directly from the abdomen of Lord Vishnu or Lord Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. And when he was born, he was not in knowledge or cognizance of what should be done. There was total darkness. And then we see by the inspiration given by the Lord within his heart, where Lord Krishna chants, Lord Vishnu chants, Tapa, this word, 2-syllable word is heard by Brahmaji, and then he performs great austerities to understand the purpose and how he should fulfill the purpose of his life. So when Lord Brahma was born, there were no ingredients for him to perform yajna or sacrifice for the pleasure of Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna. Sanjukta Mataji, continue with the translation. Then I would ask Ratnanga Radhika Mataji. Yes.
For performing sacrifice. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah.
This translation, Prabhuji, na?
Yes, yes.
For performing sacrificial ceremonies, one requires sacrificial ingredients such as flowers, leaves, and straw, along with the sacrificial altar and suitable times, spring.
Next.
Other requirements are utensils, grains, clarified butter, honey, gold, earth, water, the Rig Veda, Yadur Veda, and Samveda, and 4 priests to perform this sacrifice. Other necessity includes invoking the different names of the demigods by specific hymns and vows of recompense and accordance with the particular scripture for specific purpose and by specific processes.
And
Thus,
last,
I had to arrange all these necessary ingredients and paraphernalia of sacrifice from the personal bodily parts of the personality of Godhead by invocation of the demigods, names, and ultimate goal. Vishnu was gradually attained, and thus compensations and ultimate offering were complete.
Thank you, Mataji. So here, Brahmaji is admitting that how when he was born and in order to offer, once he got knowledge what he should be doing and how he should be doing, then he did not have any ingredients to perform the sacrifice for the pleasure of Lord Vishnu. But he got all the ingredients from the different bodily parts of the Supreme Lord himself. So this again proves from the direct sense perception of Lord Brahma that how Lord Krishna is the origin behind all the ingredients of creation within this cosmic manifestation. Everything is ultimately being provided coming from Lord Krishna or Lord Vishnu himself. So now we would proceed to last 3 verses for discussion today. Radhika Ratnanga Mataji, Hare Krishna. Let's recite this verse and then you can read through. And in all these verses, wherever possible, I have given the references to different shlokas of Purusha Sukta just for reference, but that is not a prerequisite or it won't be asked in the exam. Don't worry about it. We'll recite the text. Iti samruta sambhara
Iti samruta sambhara
Purusha vair aham
Purusha Vairaham
Tam eva purusham yagyam
Tam eva Purusham Yajnam
Tenaivayajam Ishwaram.
Tenaivayajam
Ishwaram.
Hare Krishna, Ratnanga Radhika Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thus I created the ingredients and paraphernalia for offering sacrifice out of the parts of the body of the Supreme Lord, the enjoyer of the sacrifice, and I performed the sacrifice to satisfy the Lord.
Is the purport big? So maybe the first part of the purport and the highlighted. So you can start from people in general.
People in general are always anxious to have a peace of mind or the peace in the world, but they do not know how to achieve such a standard of peace in the world. Such peace in the world is obtainable by performance of the sacrifice and by practice of austerity.
Continue.
Yeah, in the Bhagavad Gita, 5th chapter, 29 shloka, the following prescription is recommended.
And which is this famous verse, Prabhuji's Mataji, which is mentioned as peace formula? Bhuktaram
Yajna Tapasam
Sarvaloka
Maheshwaram Suhritim Sarvabhutanam Jnatmamam Shantim Richati.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So understanding Krishna in 3 ways, as the Bhukta, as the enjoyer of all the sacrifices, as Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, as the controller of all living entities, and Surudam Sarvabhutanam, as the closest, dearmost friend of all living entities. This is the sure short way to achieve peace in our life and in the world. So now you can continue the highlighted part, Mataji, the word sacrifice.
The word sacrifice suggests dedication of one's own interest for satisfaction of a second person. That is the way of all activities. Every man is engaged in sacrificing his interest for others, either in the form of family, society, community, country, or the entire human society. But perfection of such sacrifices is attained when they are performed for the sake of the Supreme Person, the Lord.
Thank you, Mataji. So many a times people have this conception, especially the Gen Z generation, we see that they call love, but don't understand the meaning of love. But according to scriptures, love means sacrifice. Love means I am willing to do a particular activity for the pleasure and satisfaction of other person, even if that activity is not very palatable, even if I don't relish doing it as much. But what matters is the other person relishes that activity very nicely. So in Krishna's case, like we can understand that we chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra every day. So sometimes we may feel like chanting, other time we may not feel like, or we may find it very boring, maybe because of n number of other emotions what we are going through. But it is not important whether we like chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra or certain days we don't feel like chanting. What is important? Krishna relishes that chanting of the holy names. So even if I like or I don't like, what is important? Krishna's taste in hearing that chanting of the holy names from me, then I must do it as offering for Krishna's pleasure. So that is the meaning of sacrifice. Sacrifice doesn't mean what I like I would do. Sacrifice means even if there is something which I don't like, but if the worshipable person likes that activity, then I am willing to do it. That is the meaning of sacrifice. Yes, Mataji, please proceed.
The whole world is engaged in sacrificing energy for the advancement of learning, social upliftment, economical development, and plans for total improvement of the human condition. But no one is interested in sacrificing for the sake of the Lord, as it is advised in Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, there is no peace in the world. If men at all wanted peace in the world, they must practice sacrifice in the interest of the supreme proprietor and friend of all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So just one point I just recollected, and when we discussed that verse, text 20th on Brahmacharya, Prabhuji's Mataji's, there is a one very important and nice book that is available in our movement, which is written by one of Srila Prabhupada's very senior disciples, His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Swami Maharaj. And when one time Maharaj had come here to Pune and he was showing this book when we were in college, the devotee who was introducing the book mentioned that this is a very nice book for the boys, and Maharaj corrected him. He said that this book is not just for boys or Prabhujis, but it is equally beneficial and even for all sections of societies, including Matajis as well, because it discusses the principles of celibacy based on Shastric injunctions and Srila Prabhupada's explanations. So these are not just relevant to the boys, but even to Matajis as well. So if you like, you can consider having it in your home. It is not very expensive. If you go for hard copy, it goes for 249 rupees. If you go for soft copy, it is 150 rupees. But this is very nice book, not very big as well, but the injunctions that are compiled by Maharaj from the scriptures are very potent, and they give us a good understanding of the basics or the concepts. What does it mean by celibacy and how it is important? We can practice it even while being in household life. We don't have to give up the day-to-day responsibilities of household life, including leading and maintaining a family. While doing those as well, we can practice celibacy. So it's very important book. Hare Krishna. So coming back to this verse, we saw that how real peace can be achieved in our life as well as in the world around us if we conduct each and every activity that we do as a sacrifice for the pleasure of Lord Krishna and recognize his position as the supreme proprietor, controller, and enjoyer. Then we would be peaceful truly in our life. And we go to last two verses. Radhika Ratnanga Mataji, you continue. Ratnagar Adhika Mataji. Yeah, translation only Mataji.
My dear son, therefore, your 9 brothers, who are the masters of living creatures, perform the sacrifice with proper rituals to satisfy both the manifested and non-manifested personalities.
Yeah. So Brahmaji is explaining to Narada Muni that not just Lord Brahma himself, but even his first set of children. And who are his first set of children? Prabhuji's, Mataji's? Who are Brahmaji's initial sons?
Kumaras.
Kumaras plus all the Prajapatis, different Prajapatis, they also perform sacrifice by collecting the ingredients from the different bodily parts of Lord Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So Brahmaji is confirming that he has personally realized Lord Krishna or Lord Vishnu to be the underlying shelter or underlying provider of ingredients for this cosmic manifestation. And now we come to the last verse for discussion today, text 30th. Ratnanga Radhika Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thereafter, the Manus, the father of mankind, the great sages, the forefathers, the learned scholars, the Daityas, and the mankind perform sacrifices meant to please the Supreme Lord.
Thank you. So, with this, we cover a particular section of this particular chapter, explaining answer to question by Narada Muni on Yacha, what is this cosmic manifestation composed of, what are the ingredients of this cosmic manifestation. So next part of this particular chapter, which would be hopefully the last portion, we would discuss next time around, next Sunday. Hare Krishna. So while a part of this discussion is very technical, wherever possible, we have tried to explain the flow, and even with reference to different analogies from Srila Prabhupada's books or references to different stories from Srila Prabhupada's writings, Prabhuji's, Mataji's. So if you have any thoughts or suggestions or questions, concerns, feel free to share. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. So if no questions or any points, then we would conclude for today. And to be honest, I personally miss attending this yatra because my daughter's CBSE 10th standard exams are going on. Otherwise, I definitely wanted to join devotees in Sri Rangam. So those who are attending, best wishes to them.
Yes.
Vamcha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Vaishnav Thakur ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.